Over to questions to the Prime Minister, in which I now call the Prime Minister to answer questions from Sir Edward Lee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Forgive me, Mr. Speaker. I visited yesterday Guy's and St Thomas Hospital to see the first clinically approved vaccine being given to people in London, as it is now across this country. This is a fantastic moment for all of us in this House, and I know that everybody will want to join me in thanking the NHS, the Vaccine Task Force, the scientists, all the volunteers who've made this possible. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Excellent. Sir Edward Lee.
When I was a spear carrier in the Brexit referendum, that campaign led by my right honourable friend, we assured the British people that a trade deal was entirely achievable. So can I urge my right honourable friend to make one last effort, and surely that deal is achievable because we have no intention of lowering our standards. But the EU should know this, that if consistent with national security, he cannot secure that deal for us, this parliamentary party will back him to the hilt because strength comes with unity.
Well, I thank my right honourable friend, and he's entirely right that a good deal is still there to be done, and I look forward to discussing it with Commissioner von der Leyen tonight. But I must tell the House that our friends in the EU are currently insisting that if they pass a new law in the future with which we in this country do not comply or don't follow suit, then they want the automatic right, Mr. Speaker, to punish us and to retaliate. And secondly, they're saying that the UK should be the only country in the world not to have sovereign control over its fishing waters. And I don't believe, Mr. Speaker, that those are terms that any Prime Minister of this country should accept. But I must tell the House and reassure my right honourable friend that whether the terms on which we deliver our new trading arrangements, whether the new arrangements resemble those of Australia's with the EU or whether they're like those of Canada with the EU, I have absolutely no doubt that from January the 1st, this country is going to prosper mightily, Mr. Speaker.
Let us go over to the Leader of the Opposition, the Right Honourable Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I join with the Prime Minister in his comments about the vaccine rollout? It was fantastic to see the first person, Margaret Keenan, receive the vaccine yesterday. It's a huge national effort, and I want to thank everybody who's been involved with it. Mr. Speaker, can I also thank you and the House authorities for enabling me to participate today, notwithstanding the fact that I'm self-isolating. Mr. Speaker, a year ago, the Prime Minister stood on the steps of Downing Street and promised the country, these were his words, a permanent break from talking about Brexit. Can the Prime Minister tell us, how's that going?
I'm delighted to welcome the right honourable gentleman from his vantage point of exile in Islington, and wish him all his spiritual home, and wish him all the best in his self-isolation. But I can tell him that his own silence on this matter has been sphinx-like. I think I wonder quite what it is, Mr. Speaker, that has kept him from asking this question for so long. We delivered Brexit, Mr. Speaker, on January the 31st, in case he failed to notice.
Going back to Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, it's Camden, not Islington. Camden. And the Prime Minister starts straight away by deflecting. Same old, whether it's COVID or Brexit. 12 months ago, he told the British people that he had an oven-ready deal. He didn't say he had half a deal. He didn't say the next stage will be very, very difficult. In fact, he told the British people, this was before the election, he faced them and he told them, these were his words, that the chances of no deal were absolutely zero. And the now Chancellor obviously took him at his word, because the Chancellor said in the run-up to the election. We won't need to plan for no deal because we have a deal. So a year on, why should anyone who trusted the Prime Minister when he said he had a deal, including his Chancellor apparently, believe a word that he says now?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I hesitate to accuse the right honourable gentleman of deliberately trying to mislead people, but let's be in no doubt that we had an oven-ready deal, which was the withdrawal agreement, by which the people voted for, as he rightly points out, by which this country left the customs union, left the single market, and delivered on our promises. And I can tell him that whatever happens, and you must know this, Mr. Speaker, that whatever happens from January the 1st, this country will be able to get on with our points-based immigration system, which we have put into law in fulfilment of our manifesto commitment. We'll be able to get on with instituting free ports, low-tax free ports in places where jobs and growth are most needed around the country. We'll be able to honour our promise to the British people and institute higher animal welfare standards, and we'll be able to do free trade deals, and we'll get our money back as well, Mr. Speaker. I don't know what else he wants to see from January the 1st, but all those things will be delivered.
Returning to Camden with Keir Starmer.
I see, Mr. Speaker. Apparently, get Brexit done just meant the first part of it, the easy bit. I don't remember that being written on the bulldozer at the time. Mr. Speaker, last September, the Prime Minister actually hit the nail on the head when he said that leaving without a deal would be, in his words, a failure of statecraft. It would. It would be a total failure. And it will be the British people who pay the price. Does the Prime Minister agree with his own spending watchdog, the OBR, that the cost of that failure, of leaving the EU with no deal, would be higher unemployment, higher inflation, and a smaller economy?
Mr. Speaker, the more he talks about Brexit, the more I can see why he tried to avoid the subject for the last year. We did leave with a very good deal, and under any circumstances, this country will prosper mightily. And I may say to the right honourable gentleman, when he talks about the possible adverse consequences for this country of a deal on Australian terms, which I think is what he's talking about, we have yet to hear from the Labour Party what their view is of that matter. Would they vote for it? Yes or no? I mean, he remained totally Delphic last week, Mr. Speaker, about his policy on fighting coronavirus. He's totally Delphic about what to do on Brexit as well.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister talks about indecision. He is absolutely stuck. This is the truth of it. He's absolutely stuck and dithering between the deal he knows that we need and the compromise he knows his backbenchers won't let him do. Mr. Speaker, I genuinely hope this is the usual Prime Minister's bluster and that, like one of his newspaper columns, a deal arrives at the last minute. But for some people and their jobs, it's already too late. Yesterday, Ineos, a major employer in this country, announced that they will not now build the new Grenadier car in Bridgend and will move production to France instead. This is a project that just 2 months ago, the Prime Minister said was a vote of confidence. So hundreds of skilled jobs now won't go to Bridgend. Can the Prime Minister tell us how many more British jobs have to go overseas before he gets on with delivering the Brexit deal that he promised?
Mr. Speaker, I think it's a bit much of the Leader of the Opposition to criticise the government for failure to come up with a policy on Brexit, when he can't even, and a bit much for him to attack the putative consequences of coming out on Australian terms, when he can't even say whether he would vote for that deal, yes or no. If he can't say whether he would vote for our deal, yes or no, then he can't. Then I'm afraid, Mr. Speaker, he simply cannot attack the government's policy. Until he is able to come up with a position of his own, Mr. Speaker, wrap a towel round his head, decide what he actually thinks, I find it very difficult to take his criticisms seriously. But what I can say is that this country will be ready for whether we have a Canadian or an Australian solution, and there will be jobs created in this country throughout the whole of the UK, not just in spite of Brexit, but because of Brexit. Because this country is going to become a magnet for overseas investment. Indeed, it already is and will remain so.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister asked me how I'll vote on a deal that he hasn't even secured. Secure the deal, Prime Minister. You promised it. And I can say this, Mr. Speaker, if there is a deal, and I hope there's a deal, then my party will vote in the national interest, not on party political lines, as he is doing. Mr. Speaker, this is about leadership. The Prime Minister has done 15 U-turns. He's had 5 different plans on Brexit, or on COVID. And last week, 53 of his own MPs voted against it. So if I were him, I wouldn't talk about leadership. The Prime Minister hasn't always wanted to listen to business. We know what his message to business is, but he should listen to them. Let me quote the CBI. They say the message for business is this: get a deal quickly. Then there's the National Farmers Union. Time is running out, they say. It's very hard to get the final preparations. These are the people the Prime Minister should be listening to, not his backbenchers. And on the question of preparation, the government knew months ago that it needed 50,000 customs agents trained and ready to go from the 1st of January, deal or no deal. So can the Prime Minister tell the House how many of the 50,000 agents will be in place on the 1st of January? That's 23 days' time.
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's wonderful to get the end of that question. I can tell him that we've invested £1 billion already in getting this country ready for whatever the trading relationship is that we have on January the 1st, and 84 million into supporting customs agents across the UK, 200 million into supporting our ports, and they're doing an amazing... And I want to thank business for the incredible job they're doing of getting ready. We've all got to get ready, because under any view, there is going to be change from January the 1st. There will be a change in the way we do business. There will be more opportunities for this country around the world. And I'm delighted by what I take as the increasing signalling I'm getting from Camden. I apologise, Mr. Speaker. The message from Camden seems to be that actually, given the choice, the right honourable gentleman would vote for a deal rather than not. Did you get that impression? I think I did.
Hopefully we can have the final question a little shorter. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, I take it that the answer is the Prime Minister has no idea whether the 50,000 customs agents will be in place on the 1st of January. He either doesn't know or he doesn't care. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said he had a deal. He didn't. He said he would protect jobs. He didn't. He said he'd prepare for any outcome. He hasn't. And whatever may happen in the next few days, there's no doubting that his incompetence has held Britain back. So will he end this charade, end the uncertainty, get the deal that he promised, and allow the country to move on?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the right honourable gentleman for his final baffling question. Last week, he as I say, Sphinx-like, avoided any pronouncement on how this country was going to fight COVID. He refused to support the measures that we have put in place. This week, he remains deafeningly silent on what he really thinks about a Brexit deal. While he puts a cold towel round his head, Mr. Speaker, lost in thought, tries to work out what his position is, we are getting on...
To order. Mr. Bryant. Mr. Bryant. I suggest the whip goes and has a word with him. We're not having that disgraceful behaviour. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think you should summon him back. He seems to have vanished. But while the right honourable gentleman tries to work out what his position is, we're getting on with the work of government. And it's, as he says, it's a year since his People's Government was elected, and I'm very proud that we're delivering on the people's priorities. 6,000 of the 20,000 police officers, Mr. Speaker, 14,800 of the 50,000 nurses already, and we're getting on with building every one of the 40 hospitals, in fact 48 hospitals, that we're going to deliver, along with the biggest programme of infrastructure investment in this country for a century, uniting and levelling up across the whole of the UK. And whether the outcome is Canada or whether it's Australia, Mr. Speaker, we will be taking back control. We have already taken back control of our money, our borders and our laws, and we will seize all the opportunities that Brexit brings.